Starting out on this edition of Air, I know a lot of you are super into baseball season right now. We just started opening day with the Cardinals. Opening day at home is coming up as well. And I have the ultimate Cardinal fan in the studio with me today. And he's going to talk to us a little about his story and also we'll talk a little baseball with him as well. Have Carter Refwish in with me today. As some of you may know, like, who's that? But if I tell you I'm here with the Cardinal Cowboy, you'll probably figure it out. How are you doing today, Carter?
Doing great. How are you doing, Jason?
I can't complain at all. Before we get into talking a little baseball, I just want to get a little bit on your background. How did you come up with the concept of being the Cardinal Cowboy? How did this all start?
It's kind of an interesting story. Being a diehard Cards fan all of my life, and a lot of people are if you're born and raised in St. Louis or anywhere in the Midwest, where the Cardinal Nation spreads wide. But really, just as a kid, grew that love for baseball. And then if you're in St. Louis, naturally that's going to be for the St. Louis Cardinals. And they've done more than a lot of baseball teams have, given kind of a smaller market, but 11 championships, that kind of thing. So pretty avid fan. Played baseball real competitively, and just loved baseball overall. So as I grew up, continued to play real competitively. At a point, I think I was about 10 years old. Which is, I'll date myself. Here we go. Anybody remembers the World Series in 1982?
Okay.
Right, so that's when I first recall my dad had purchased one of the red Augie Busch replica Cardinal Cowboy hats. And so he would wear it for a little bit of fun, but I took some intrigue towards it and started wearing it myself. Jump ahead then, and I was still playing, obviously, baseball in grade school and then in high school. And for prom, my dad is a bit of a semi-pro, we say, photographer. He's won a couple of contests or whatever, but he takes a lot of pictures. But he said, I'll take your pictures of you in your prom outfit, right? You're getting to go to prom. And so I got the tuxedo on with the red cowboy hat. He said, put the hat on for this picture, too. So that's the first documented picture where I was actually wearing the hat. And I've got that on CardinalCowboy.com. But then progressed to continue to play baseball, went off to play baseball in college. Then that's when the accident happened. I'd already been going to games, kind of avidly, wear the Cardinal Cowboy hat every once in a while. And then the accident happened. I was at Central Methodist University, playing baseball there, full ride to play baseball, and the coach there thought I really had the ability. He could get me drafted, it sounded like, and then it's just a matter of, being the smaller guy who works harder than the rest. Or, I wasn't an Albert Pujols or a big slugger like,
Like a Descalzo.
Like a Descalzo, right, yeah. And so, but I was really and really thought I was pretty certain that was just a matter of fact. And I used to dive up the middle and do all kinds of fun stuff and flip the ball behind my back to get guys out. And I loved it. And I had a gal come up to me one time in the mall. She goes, "Are you the guy they call Ozzie Smith?" I was like, wow. So that was like a junior, senior in high school. So really thought I was on that path. Then the accident happened. You know a little bit about it, but I was hit by, I was in the back seat of a car riding back to St. Louis after I was actually playing soccer in the fall that time at Central Methodist, and going to meet the gal I'd been dating, and the guys were going to go watch the Eureka High School soccer team play. So we're going back on Highway 109, truck spinning at us, out of control, hits us head on. We hit the side of him, but we hit him head on, and end up, there's obviously a very tragic accident there. Jimmy Barnes, God rest his soul, was killed. Not at the scene, but he was in critical condition. They sent him to the hospital. He was going to be blind if he survived, but his head swelled, and it ended up causing him to not make it through. I was at the scene also, and obviously, and was convincingly enough talking to them, coherently talking to them, and they said, "Go ahead and send the first ambulance. We'll let him just go ahead and take off, and Carter looks like he's okay. We'll send him on the first trip." At that point, I started to have seizures and started to shake violently. And they said, "Wait a minute, stop!" Pull the drunk driver who had just hit us out. He had later blew a .21 BAC, so he was well beyond.
Wow.
Back in the day, the legal limit was .10, so he was double that, and now he's almost 3 times the legal limit. And we found out later that was his fifth DWI. But anyway, they pulled him out, put me in, took me to the hospital. They said, if I hadn't made the first trip to the hospital, I wouldn't have made it. I wouldn't have survived. Along the way, though, they shoot you up with a drug that they actually, I've researched this drug since. It was initially created in the 60s, but they found that dilantin can cause seizures to stop, but it can also induce a coma. So then I went further into a coma, at which point they said, well, Carter's got less than 50-50 odds to survive this. That's what they told my parents. They didn't tell me that. Obviously, they were wrong. But proved the doctors wrong, got my arms out of the restraints, freed my hands and pulled the breathing ventilator out of my own throat, at which point they said, wow, we think he's actually going to make it. Continue with the prognosis, and that's where I even talked to kids. I visited a kid last week, Seth Lang, who's going through some leukemia treatment right now, and I said, you just got to stay strong. You got to believe in yourself no matter what, because your mind is absolutely going to control your destiny here, not anything else, not what these doctors say. And I was fortunate to have that kind of programming from my parents as a kid, and just kept on going. I didn't know any better. I didn't know how bad a shape I was, but they just kept that kind of bad information away from me. And then I continued. They said, well, you're going to probably have to take care of Carter. Well, kind of proved them wrong with that again, just because my dad said, you're not going to talk to my son like this. And once they yanked me out of a psychiatrist's office and said, wrong programming, we don't even espouse that kind of talk, and pulled me out of there. But I proceeded to then, I said, I'm staying in school. My parents said, you're crazy. We don't even want you to stay in school. You need to take a semester off. I said, nope, I've seen other kids drop out for a lot less. I'm going to continue. And I did. I didn't get good grades by any means, but I decided to stay in school and do that. So finished college on time, which was not expected, and then proceeded to go on to grad school, and then and got actually a tryout with the St. Louis Rams when I got back into kicking field goals and kicked a couple 50-yarders that got some of the scouts' attention, and just kind of proved the whole doctor. So that's the story of where the Cardinal Cowboy kind of transpired. It ends up along the way after the accident, picked up the football and started doing that, but at the same time I still was an avid baseball fan, and kept playing. I got back into baseball, playing men's semi-pro baseball, if you will. It's grown men's amateur baseball, and at the potential you might win a baseball game that they pay a tournament championship to, so then it's technically semi-pro, right? But got into a really good team, ended up being one of the best teams in the country that my buddy had started. I asked him, I said, Jay, you start this team. This will be great, and I guarantee all these guys will all come play for you. So along the path, then I started wearing the Cardinal Cowboy hat again to the Cardinals game, and with the jersey, which I've been doing for a while, but now there was a caveat, and I added the baseball pants, because I had pants that I was wearing to play ball in. So I started wearing the pants to the game. At the same time, I had the jersey and the hat, and that's really when it really began to stick and take off. So then it just became, and then from that point on, it just has gone from just some local people wanting to see some attention to, I've been interviewed by Japanese television stations, ESPN's had me on for Outside the Lines, Major League Baseball came to my house, and then all the local stations have done stuff with me. So it's really given me an opportunity then to say, hey, what can I do with this? Now, and a gal who I'm still friends with to this day, she said, you need to take this and use your Cardinal Cowboy outfit and get up and everything you do that gets people's attention, and talk to them about your accident. That I already had started on talking to groups about, but now I really could captivate them with something that really got their attention. And so that's where it's really transpired, and now that's what I do, and I get to work with great organizations like you guys here, and help spread the word about believing in yourself, prove the doctor's wrong, and never give up until you accomplish whatever you're going for.
And I know you have your key saying, of course, is giddy up. Like, most people think that would be a perfect phrase from a cowboy, but I don't think it's just a phrase, but it seems like the way that you live life, kind of just get up and go, never give up, and kind of almost like an inspirational model, not just a catchphrase.
Yeah, and I've learned to use it in any kind of manner. It can be interpreted a number of different ways. When somebody says to you something like, well, are we going to do this? Then my response is, yeah, giddy up, right? Giddy up, let's go. Or I'm not sure I can accomplish this. Giddy up, yes you can. So there's so many ways that you can just apply it to just about any conversation, almost as like an exclamation. Just say, hey man, I'm on this, I'm excited, giddy up. And I recall one time I didn't say giddy up on one of my posts on Facebook, and one of my buddies chimed in with a comment and says, Cardinal Cowboy always must say giddy up. So it's kind of been my moniker.
So now you can't go without it. Now, you touched on the field goal kicking a little bit, and you said, you got to try with the Rams, did a little semi-pro, but you're still you kick for a local team right now, correct?
Correct, yeah. Well, for years I've done the whole minor league thing, and that's where I got the attention, and I've kicked. By now we've documented there's 5 50-yarders I've kicked that were actually in a game, which some NFL kickers never kicked that many, which was kind of exciting. That's kind of where I got the attention there. But then I've been a part of, or asked to try out with, or the backup or the starting kicker a number of times for the different minor league teams. So St. Louis now has a new minor league team, indoor team that's come to town. And so I've been part of the indoor teams in the past, and they said, hey, how's your leg? And I was like, oh, I'm not sure if I want to. There's all kinds of, this kid's coming from this school, and there's all the politics that kind of goes into it. But this time I said, you know what the heck? I've got people specifically calling me out to do this. We'll give it a shot. So they had 8 or 10 kickers come out and try out, and it didn't have any leg up per se on any one of them because we all had tried equally. And when it was said and done, I was selected as a kicker for the Missouri Monsters, which was pretty exciting. So we're playing. We're at our third home game coming up here this Saturday, and it's been real exciting to be able to be part of that. Kind of share a little bit of from near death, and I say from coma to kicker to pro kicker.
Yeah,
got my first paycheck a couple weeks ago.
So I mean, you got a lot of stuff on your plate here. Like I said, the opening day is going to be coming up soon. You still got the season going on. How do you balance all this stuff out? And I know other stuff you do as well. You got a bunch of other things on your plate too.
Probably the thing that keeps me most busy is the business. But you can see we've got Lindsay in the office with us here today. Lindsay's my right hand. She just keeps track of everything and helps me keep everything in order. So, but we run nonstop. Is it fair to say we run nonstop at a minimum? But yeah, it's all about time management and just I've got this allocated stop along the way, and she literally was typing stuff up on the laptop that's connected with our Wi-Fi while I was driving and sending emails and coordinating. But we don't waste a minute. But I think if you just use your time effectively, you can accomplish anything. It's just a matter of, and most people, this is where they get stuck. They get into a situation and they go, I can't do this. And they're wrong. They could. They just won't try. And once they try, they begin to realize, I can. I didn't realize I was capable of that. And that's really what the whole Cardinal Cowboy message is about.
Definitely. And this going on, I know with you have a couple sponsors that you work with too, but your time goes to good management too and good charities. You donate to over, I think, 40 charities. Is that correct?
Yeah, I've been by now. I think we're above 40, but 40 charities that I've either been associated with as part of the celebration or whatever. I'll show up to the charitable event and take pictures with the crowd and with everybody and what's going on, and they'll put me up on the screen or the print or whatever they do. And I just want to help engage the crowd, the audience, so that they can be part of what's going on. And everybody loves the Cardinals, and then a lot of people enjoy the kind of cavalier nature of a Cowboy. So combine the two, and it makes a little bit of excitement for the whole audience.
No, couldn't let you leave or couldn't end the conversation without talking a little baseball and the Cardinals starting out the season already. What are your initial thoughts on the team so far?
Well, if people think that I'm such a diehard fan that I pick apart the lineup from top to bottom, but I think I saw last night, and tell me if I'm wrong, but is Benji Molina now part of the
Yes, he's the assistant hitting coach because they promoted Mabry. And, because when McGuire left and they hired Benji, he's the assistant hitting coach.
Okay. And so I saw him on the bench, and I was like, wow, are they going to maybe potentially have him back up his brother if necessary? But that's my point is I do stay pretty closely involved, but I don't follow every single transaction and whatever. And with that in mind, I mean, I had to look up the starting rotation tonight. I mean, with Carpenter going down, I do stay involved enough to realize that when Carpenter's going down, everybody knew that. But what's our rotation going to be? Who's going to be the starting guys? What's the starting lineup actually looking like? I know David Freese, my good friend, he's out right now with some back injuries. But when it comes down to it, bottom line is this, and it applies back to what we've talked about, and that is, for some reason, the Cardinals manage to, with not as much money, without as much quote-unquote raw, incredible, brute talent, millions of dollars going along with that, still end up finding a way every year to be in the hunt to win the division. I can't remember the time where they weren't in first or second place for most of the season, and we know that second place in the division, we get in as the wild card, it seems to be the premier spot at times. But I would say, once again, you don't really know what to expect, except that they're likely to be very good. Mike Matheny does a great job managing. I think he was an excellent choice. I think my personal perspective is he got that job because he came in with, hey, I'm already in the mold. I already know everything about how this is run. I've got the same mentality. You don't have to worry about some of the things that and I won't say any names, but other managers that came out of the Boston area that later on they found, there was some turmoil within the organization.
Yeah, exactly.
And you don't want to just introduce that into a system that's already won a couple championships recently. So I'd say the odds are going to be good that they're going to make the playoffs again. It's just a matter how far do they go. And then it's really a matter who's hot at the right time of the year, right? And when you get hot, even as the 8th seed out of 8 teams going into the playoffs, you can win it. And so you got to be there. So give the Cardinals a chance. I'm not going to do anything because I'm also a little bit of a baseball enthusiast. I've played, so you don't want to jinx them by predicting anything. But I think that you'll see some excitement, no doubt, and I look to see him playing in October again.
Now, talking about Cardinal baseball and speaking of things that you do for different organizations, we have many of our listeners know that we have our celebrity beat ball game coming up this year, and you will be taking part of that, which some of you may not know is basically blindfolded softball. Now, how are you going to adapt? I know you've been an athlete. You're currently a field goal kicker, pretty good baseball player. Do you have any strategies that you're already working on for beat ball?
Well, I've been introduced to it by you. I appreciate that, Jason. It's exciting for me to have the opportunity. I have enough confidence in my personal ability that I'll adapt. But as I think about what's really involved with beat ball, it's a ball that's coming at you, and you have to sense it with audibly, right, with your ears and hearing the ball. And how do you detect the depth of the ball, the height, the velocity, and all those things while the ball's coming at you? I was watching people, and they were hitting the ball, and they're completely blindfolded.
Yeah, it's the I think the key is, and what I figured out is your pitcher, because the pitcher's on your team, the actual hitting team, and they kind of tell you when to swing. Basically, the pitcher's consistent, and they have a good repertoire, good timing with you. It usually works out pretty good. They're kind of wild. It's going to be a lot of swings and misses.
Yeah,
so hopefully we'll put you on a team with a good pitcher. Hopefully.
Yeah, well, there you go. So now it's a team game with the pitcher. I didn't realize that. But, yeah, it seems to me it's I've got the athletic ability, I think, still to do so, but it's going to be learning that. And I think it's like anything also, if people are given the right training, the right facilities, and they practice hard enough, hey, man, I can do anything. And likewise with my teammates, hopefully we can come out and do well.
And I know with your track record, people definitely believe me. I think people definitely have good expectations for you in beat ball as well. And Carl, I want to thank you for taking time out to come in with me and talk about, share your story with us, because I think it's a great story for our listeners to listen to. No matter what you're going through, know what things that may ail you. Always keep going and keep positive and believe there's a way to make it out of that situation or make things work in the situation that you are in.
Yeah, it's absolutely the case. I mean, it's true when I'm kicking field goals. If the last field goal I had some doubt because the ball didn't hit right, I didn't line it up right, the wind was blowing, whatever it is, I've got to clear that from my mind and think about only from this point forward, I'm going to make every kick after that. Because if there's the slightest doubt in my mind, I'm going to miss that field goal. And that's just how temperamental it is, especially as a kicker with all the variables. But it's also true about that same scenario in life, because you've got all kinds of things that can possibly go wrong. You got all kinds of things that may not work out. But you just got to keep plugging and focusing on what is, because if you're not completely focused on what is going to work, then you're actually distracted so where you can't accomplish what you're going after. And you need every bit of the focus and energy to be on what is going to make it happen, because if you're any part of that energy is sidetracked and not pushing towards what you're trying to accomplish, it's going against you. And it's like reducing your odds by doing so. So why would you ever want to reduce your odds to win or to accomplish or finish or whatever you're trying to do? Because you're worried about what else might happen or what could go wrong or what somebody said or all that kind of stuff. It just really shouldn't be part of the equation.
Definitely. Like I said, I want to thank you for your time and story, and we'll look for you at the baseball games, and we'll look for you kicking field goals, and best of luck to that. Hopefully, Missouri Monsters, I know you guys can make the playoffs or, stay in contention for that as well. So best of luck to you, and we look forward to seeing you at Beat Ball.
That's great. I appreciate the opportunity, Jason. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.